Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.
All right, well, here is another presentation of Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.
Bilko.
We do need a jingle, I'll tell you that. I have yet to create the jingle. Yeah, I like that one.
We'll just rip off Warenberg Theaters. Bilko. Nobody knows what Warenberg Theaters is.
Nobody does outside of St. Louis.
Right,
you whisper in the movie, like you go to a movie in Atlanta and nobody knows what you're talking about.
I know. I did that outside of St. Louis and I got stared at, so, fun stuff. Anyway.
Yeah,
so,
speaking of movies, we are here today to discuss 2010, what future would have been like 6 years ago.
Yes, exactly. I as a little kid, watched this all the time. This is probably one of my favorite movies as a kid, which probably says a lot about me. But
so this is your like Back to the Future, because I would watch Back to the Future all the time as a kid. Yeah. Meanwhile, little Tristan was watching 2010.
Which was watching 2010. Yeah, exactly. So, just to provide some context, this is obviously my favorite, like one of my favorite childhood movies. I watched it a million times. I probably know the plot backwards and forwards. That's why I didn't feel the need to like watch it again,
right?
Because I know it down pat, and I also have read the book several times.
Oh, there's a book. Was this based on a book, or was this the book based on the movie?
Yes, both 2001 and 2010 were both books before they were movies.
Interesting. Did 2010 come out after the movie, like the book, or did they both come out before either movie was made?
Both came out before either movie was made, and what's interesting is in they completely changed 2001. Right, the Stanley Kubrick, made that amazing movie or whatever, but he didn't follow the book at all. He goes to a totally different. They go to a totally different planet in the book. They go to Saturn, and they go to the moon Iapetus in the book 2001, and in the movie 2001 they go to Jupiter and Europa.
Interesting.
So, anyway,
because I originally saw both of these probably mid high school, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And that was the last time I saw them, so probably it's been that long.
So you've seen both 2001 and 2010?
I've seen both of them.
Okay.
And I thought 2010 was like a sequel to 2001 because 2001 made absolutely no sense and it was a crazy messed up movie. Yes. So they had to make a sequel in order to explain what was going on in 2001. That was my assumption, but clearly that is incorrect since you just stated that the two books already existed before the movie came out.
Yes, so, no, this is not a clarification of
2001?
Of 2001, which I do agree really needed it. And that's one of the things that I did want to touch on, is that, as a person who may be a bit biased because he watched this like every day, but like if you'd put little Tristan down in front of this movie and you put him down in front of or if you put him in front of 2010 or 2001, I would pick 2010 every time because they don't have to watch the first third of the movie be about monkeys beating the crap out of each other with femur bones. I understand, Mr. Kubrick, this is all some big art project you're working on, but I got places to go, man. I don't have 3 hours to sit through your monkey / moon monolith. And the thing is, the story doesn't really get going, I think, in 2001.
That's what I was going to say. There is no story. Whatever I remember of 2001 is there is absolutely no story until you get to like Hal at like the last like half hour of the movie.
Right.
Like that's really the movie in a nutshell, because everything else is just like random bits and pieces that just make no sense when you watch it all together. Yeah. And there's no like dialogue or anything like that either. No. It's I just remember it being a very crazy, messed up movie until the very end. Then it starts to make sense, and even then it's crazy and messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, and watching guys run around in monkey suits for like 45 minutes, which gives nothing to the rest of the movie, right? It's not like guy in monkey suit number 21 is going to show up in the third act and be, on the spaceship with his femur bone.
Right. Yeah. And that's why, again, that's why I thought they made 2010 was because, okay, guys, we messed up in the first movie. Nobody knows what this is about. So we're going to make 2010 as a sequel to the first movie so to explain what this is actually all about. Because, looking back and saying, okay, looking at 2010 and then thinking about 2001, it starts to make a little sense. You think the monolith is there. It's what kind of started life on the planet and all this other stuff. There's a lot of backstory explained in 2010 that you didn't have a clue what was happening in 2001. And so that's why I thought it was kind of like a backwards thing where it's like, okay, guys, we really need to help our audience out here by explaining to them what's going on, so let's make this sequel.
Yeah. Well, just a time gap in between these two movies. I think 2001 was it was
67, wasn't it? Somewhere.
1967, and this was I think 1983. So obviously,
that's quite the jump.
Big gap in between these movies when they got made.
Hold on, is that the same time between the movies themselves?
No. It's that
would have been 9 years, which would have been
2001,
76.
Mm-hmm. So how do you like the United States space program and the Soviet space program in 2010? Pretty ballin' compared to what we got now.
Top notch, if I
know.
myself. I mean, it's the next step is like the Enterprise, I think, is, they're right there.
Right. Well, I mean, they've got these massive washing machine ships. But anyway, so we should probably like come on to some sort of topic. So from your viewing, relate to us the events of 2010, or talk about summarize what happened. So
quick recap. All right. So somehow this Russian guy gets a hold of information about secret U.S. astronomical events, aka what happened in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they figured out that this giant monolith square thing in the air appears that's like 2 kilometers long, circling, I think, one of the moons, if not Jupiter itself.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to go investigate because I forget why, but you know. So then somehow the Russians say, we're going no matter what, and we're going to beat you guys to it because you're lazy Americans, and we're already well on our way. So you could tag along with us if you want to come, because we need to break into your ship, and its systems, and we do not. So somehow there's a joint venture that gets created here, even though there's World War III about to go down with a pseudo Cuban Missile Crisis around Honduras.
Yeah, I love the Soviet guy. He's like, well, maybe we have some poor Americans who cannot make their own ship, and we take them along. So. I like that. That was very realistic.
Yes.
That doesn't look too bad on the front page of Pravda.
I love 80s Cold War Soviet Russia. It is so well portrayed in the media.
Yes. Yeah. Helen Mirren's a babe too. But anyway, so they go off to so they journey off to
they journey on up there to Jupiter, I guess. And I guess this mission is two-folded. One, to investigate the monolith, which I guess is the main mission.
Yeah.
Mission B is to, I guess, break into the ship and figure out why Hal kind of, self-destructed or disoriented everyone or killed everybody off.
Killed everybody, yeah.
And so they go out there, they break into Hal, the Hal ship, I guess turn it back on.
Do you like that scene, by the way, where they turn Hal back on? I've never
with the voices.
Yeah, I've never met a scene in computing or a scene in a movie that was more representative of coding than that one scene. Because it's like,
I was watching. It's funny because I was watching, and all the guy did was like push in these crystal things. I'm like, oh, we're using Stargate logic. All you have to do is push everything back together, and just works. Magic.
Yep. Just a big table with no labels, just identical crystal things that you push up and down.
All you got to do is push them all in because that's what he did, and it happened to work.
Yeah.
So then they start, I guess, investigating the big monolith thing, and it like shoots at him, or the dude who. First of all, why would you send a man and ship when you have drones to investigate this alien object?
Right. So there were a couple of changes. There were quite a few changes actually from the book to the movie 2010.
Yep.
That's one of the things I think they got wrong. I think they stuck a guy in the pod in the movie, I think, to like maybe increase suspense for the audience. But in the book, they just said fucking broke, like they should have.
Yeah.
and
an insane human would do.
Right, and then this guy, he goes up and he tries to poke the monolith, and then he accelerates to like a tenth the speed of light, and then there's no more this dude anymore, and you're like, oh, who could have seen that coming?
Yeah.
Just don't hang your ass out right next to the giant space Eldritch abomination, like
right.
Use some common sense. Come on, man.
He's got what he's coming to him, so let's just put it that way.
So
So I guess the next thing that happens is
the arrow break, right?
Oh yeah, well they did that previously. Which
okay.
I was going to ask about that because how do you break using balloons? Because it doesn't seem like that would work.
So I'm very excited to talk about this because I think this is the first time even Interstellar didn't use it. I was so pissed. Interstellar, they go up to Saturn, and I'm like, fuck yeah, all right, I'm gonna see some arrow breaking, and it didn't do anything. They just I don't know, they fired their rockets or they did something like that. But arrow braking is how you get into Jupiter's orbit on the cheap. All right, okay, because if you want to not arrow brake, right, you have to you're going to be above Jupiter's atmosphere, but not in it, right?
So
and
you have
and
to
then
bring your own fuel to slow
yeah,
down.
and you got to bring a rocket, and then you got to fire it, and then you got to get rid of the engine and the rocket stage. But if you arrow brake, you don't need any fuel. You just bring this big heat shield, stick it on the front. Tack it on the front of your ship and ram your ass into Jupiter's upper atmosphere and let that like bleed off your momentum until you're in orbit around Jupiter.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how you get there. That's how you would do it if you were not like the Enterprise, right?
The poor man's space travel.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, well, the Leonov looks like a giant floating garbage truck, and that's one of the things I love about this movie is that the spaceships look like actual spaceships.
Right. I did like all their like fancy colored buttons in the inside.
Yes. So they get an orbit around Jupiter, and they restart the Discovery, right? That's the next part. Yeah. So what did you think of that scene where they're spacewalking over to this giant cartwheeling Discovery? Which is a nice little touch because apparently that's what angular momentum would do after a while. It would get the ship spinning in that direction like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, once it would spin, it would always spin, and so
right,
it just would never have stopped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost curious of how it got layered on with like a thick layer of dust or whatever that was, because I would think the angular momentum would like
fling it off,
allow that,
Yeah. Well, it's Io, right? A planet that Arthur C. Clarke describes as Mordor from Lord of the Rings. So that's why it was covered with all that crap, because of all the
Like volcanoes
sulfur,
or whatever.
Yeah, sulfur volcanoes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I guess they get in, they start the ship up, and everything's a-okay. Nothing apart from a few dead people, I guess,
Yeah,
or whatever the
exactly.
dude smelled,
Yeah.
which they haven't really clarified.
Yeah. Also, I don't get why he would be so freaked out that there were dead people like on the 'cause
ship.
he smelled like rotting meat and was just like, okay, so some dude came back and he died and he rotted. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
are you? It's been 9 years, dude, and you're out of Jupiter. There's no food, there's no water, there's nobody alive out here, man. What are you afraid about?
Right. And they also specifically said, oh, 2 people died in hibernation. Well, their bodies are still there in hibernation then. Wouldn't that be the smell you're smelling?
Right. Exactly. Like, I mean, the hibernation systems go offline, all right, and then you're tumbling, getting heated and cooled.
Yeah. You don't get ejected into space if your vitals go away. You're still there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I mean, he's talking about like, oh no, I smell the dead people, and I would be like, yeah, you probably do. You probably do smell rotting people. What do you fucking think? 2 people died in hibernation, and we haven't exactly moved them out of here. Yeah, they're gonna smell.
And who went with him? Like John Lithgow or whatever his name is?
Yeah, John Lithgow. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that he was in this movie.
Was this his audition for Third Rock from the Sun?
maybe. Like, he was kind of no name, like, in this.
I can imagine.
But he's good in it. I like him.
Yeah. Although I don't know why they would send him of all people over.
I know,
the guy who's freaked out about all of this.
Yeah.
Just go with that Russian and float over to the ship. No worries.
Yes, exactly. He's freaking out. I do like that. Easy as pie, no cake. Easy as cake.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great little line. But yeah, so they go on the Discovery. They reactivate Hal. What do you think about Hal? Hal is a fun
Hal
character.
is as freaky as he always is. Like, why would you design a computer to be that monotone if you have full voice acting capabilities?
Mm-hmm. What do you mean, Bill?
I do like The Simpsons. Do you ever see that Treehouse of Horror where
Pierce Brosnan takes
Pierce
over?
Brosnan takes over? That's what it should be. Give me a Pierce Brosnan now.
Yes. So Hal turns on.
I guess they wiped his memory.
Yeah, and so he doesn't know what happened.
Right.
Like, he doesn't know that he killed those other astronauts.
And what was their reasoning for him actually doing that?
So
because he was like conflicted with like presidential orders or something.
Yeah. So basically, the Discovery was sent up to Jupiter, and then on the way to Jupiter, like, Washington, CIA types found out about the monolith around Jupiter. So Hal was instructed to, do everything he could do to find out information about it, but not tell the crew, but keep it secret from the crew. And because Hal is like designed to always tell the truth to the crew, it put him in like this crazy computer logical paradox where he had to keep it secret, but he wanted to tell them about it. So
we ended up killing them.
So the only way, right, logically, if to continue the mission yet keep the secret, if you're a computer, is if you kill the crew, then the crew are dead. You can complete the mission on your own, and there's no risk of the secret getting out. So, in Hal's mind, yeah. So, kind of a. I like that bit, but I think it's hard to get from like the movie, and how they explain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I got that he was in some kind of like logical loop or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't understand how that translated into let's kill these people.
Yeah, and I think yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily translate. I think, but that's what he did apparently. So,
Right. So from
mhm.
there, I guess that's when they start investigating the big monolith,
Yeah,
and that's when it like turns on, for
right.
lack of a better term.
Yes.
Kills the guy, and then
Disappears, right?
yeah, it like goes away.
Yeah. And
Um,
then Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0
yeah,
happens,
Cuban
right?
Missile Crisis back on Earth happens.
And they both go to their
Because
separate
we're
ships.
so protective of Honduras.
Yeah.
It's a very strategic ally of ours, or
I
whatnot.
know, I know. We supported a coup in there actually just a year ago, so we're very, very keen on them. Um, anyway, so the mini Cold War happens, and then the Americans have to go to the American ship, and the
Yeah, because
Soviets have.
everybody's forced to leave Russian territory, even in space.
I know, even in space, when you're in orbit around Jupiter, get off Russian territory.
Yeah, let's just send our Americans back to a 9-year-old spaceship that's been, just floating around for who knows,
Right.
doing what. It's completely safe for them. It's far better than being with the Russians. So yeah, let's
Mhm.
make everybody go back.
Right, exactly.
Then I guess they come up with this odd plan of how to get home, but they're like the Americans were gonna go their merry old way, and the Russians were gonna go their merry old way, but the American journey was gonna be like 5 times as long or something like that because they had to take like a low economical consumption route or something.
Yeah. It sucks to be you,
Yeah. I
American.
assume, well, I guess hibernation, they would just think
Hmm.
that would work because I'm like, do they
Yeah.
have food? This thing's been floating up there forever.
They're just gonna eat Dr. Chandra, one leg at a time.
Yeah. But then I guess the guy from the first movie comes back
Right.
and like appears as a vision or
Mhm.
hallucination or some kind of computer
And becomes a giant fetus.
And yeah, that was freaky
Creepy.
baby transformation. That was weird.
Does that weird you out?
It did
Weird.
because you're watching this and like from the camera perspective, I guess it makes sense because every time you flash back to the dude, he's like a different age.
Yeah.
But like, what is the guy there live seeing this whole time? Is he like instantly transforming, or is it some kind of like slow dissolve into like the freaky baby, and then he's like this old guy? And like, what did that look like to him? Who was there?
Yeah. I mean, you've got a good point in that they kind of they don't show it from Floyd's perspective when they do those cuts, right? Otherwise, they would show the jump from an old man to the normal age
Right.
Bowman.
Like I said, it was all like camera editing. Every time you cut away and
Yeah.
cut back to him, he was something else.
Yeah. You know, all I remember was, they were discussing like how the aliens that are behind the monolith or whatever, are going to communicate, and they were talking about it like in the Reduction 2010, and one thing that came up with very early on was it wasn't going to be a guy with a rubber forehead, right? It wasn't going to be like a Klingon, like some dude in some prosthetic and whatever walking up and then, giving exposition. They wanted it to be like something that was, more ethereal in it. I think it's a creepy scene. I think it's a confusing as hell scene, but I think it's sort of creepy in its confusingness.
Yeah, it's like an homage to the first movie.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it's good that they got the actor who played Bowman to come back and
I was gonna ask, is that him?
yeah,
Or
I think
somebody else?
that's him. That's the same actor. So They made him look, I think, as young as he did in like,
Mm.
I mean, 1969. So like, good makeup job, uh, so yeah, so that happens, and they basically the alien shows up and he says, "All right, no, you can't leave in like 3 years. You gotta like leave in 3 days. Like that's
Right.
the message."
Right. So
Uh,
wait, what was I guess Bowman was the dude's name?
yeah.
Was that actually Bowman, or was that supposed to be an alien impersonating Bowman?
No, that's actually Bowman. So at the end of the first movie, 2001, when uh, Bowman's the only survivor of the Discovery, because Hal killed the guys in hibernation, and he killed a guy called Frank Poole, which was his co-pilot on the mission. He was the only other guy who was not in hibernation. So Bowman goes, for lack of a better term, into the monolith and gets ascended to like the ninth dimension or something, the realm beyond your mere mortal understanding. Okay,
Right.
and so
Stargate rules. He got
right,
ascended into
yes,
the next
yes.
plane of existence.
There we go. There we go. So Bowman at the end of 2001 ascends in the next plane of existence, and that's how he's able to do all this stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he gives the ominous warning that you need to leave now or in 2 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's not too clear, I mean,
he just says something wonderful is going to happen, but you gotta leave.
yeah, like, normally those two things don't go together.
Right. If it's something wonderful, wouldn't you want to stay and like see what it's about?
No, something wonderful is about to happen here. Well, you got to get out of here.
Get
man.
out.
I mean, it's wonderful. It ain't for you. But, but yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to see where they went with that. With like how they did the creature from beyond the ninth plane of existence. But he's there basically just to say, hey, move the plot along. Get back to Earth. Yeah. And so after that, Floyd hangs out Helen Mirren and does the zero-G pen scene.
Yeah, I was gonna. What's that about? Like, how did that work?
Which didn't make a goddamn bit of sense, and it's the worst. It's one of the worst parts of the movie, because either there's this localized table that has 0G, in these. Because,
Are the pens have like a magnet in it?
Right.
Like I don't understand. Like I get they're in space and they're trying to do this cool effect. Like,
yeah.
Look at me, I can make pens float. But it's
like
everybody else is acting like everybody else has gravity. So
yeah, you're standing, and there's like a coffee cup sitting on a table over there. Yeah, like it did it. That was one of the most jarring scenes in the movie. Even as a kid, because I'm like, wait a minute, they're all standing, but like this little area is the pens are floating.
Yeah.
And so like I get that you wanted to do like a visual of like to explain to the audience what this kind of gonna look like, but I mean, could you maybe do it in a section of the ship where there was 0G?
Right. Right.
They're pretty good about that, I thought. I mean, mostly, yeah, like when there was supposed to be gravity, there was gravity, and when there wasn't, there wasn't. But that pen scene was just weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Anyway.
I guess they like lock ships together.
Yeah.
Like with rope or whatever they used. To just jerry-rig these two ships to work together.
Kerbal Space Program.
Which I can't, like, that wouldn't work, right? When you put this big thing on top of another thing and blast its rockets, like, it will have some kind of, like, lean to the right, wouldn't it? When you hit that rocket?
So So yes, but remember that the space shuttle launches and it
Right.
has an asymmetric.
But they fire all the rockets at the same time to compensate.
Right, and this though they do here.
No, they only fire the HAL ship first, and then when that's out of fuel, they dislodge, and then fire the next ship.
That's weird. Yeah, that wouldn't work. You'd go spinning.
Yeah, that's where you just kind of like spin around or lean to the bottom,
You do
like
a
a big
loop.
circle.
Yeah, you do a big loop to loop. That's what you do.
And why did that dude wait till like the very last second
I know.
to like get to the other ship? Like this thing has like 30 seconds left. And
Right.
he's like having a casual conversation with Hal.
Right.
It's like, why aren't you on the other ship?
Yeah.
Why are you waiting to accelerate? And then after it did, like, why wouldn't you just wait there in that ship until you're finished accelerating?
Yeah.
And then make the jump, because at that point it's irrelevant because everyone's going the same speed. There's no acceleration.
Yeah. And like, you know, you had like probably like 20 hours to prepare for this, dude. You know, like you could have said goodbye and like an hour worth of time to chill out on the other ship. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's that doesn't make any sense. I actually thought that both ships fire their engines. Now that I think about it,
I'm trying to pull it up right now and seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the HAL ship is much bigger than the Russian ship, which I kind of thought it was the other way around.
Okay.
And maybe that makes sense then.
Maybe
because I don't see. Here it is right here. Russian rockets are not firing. Only the HAL ship is firing.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's. I mean, you'd have to put it in front. You know, you'd have to put it. Yeah, and also that's another thing that's interesting is that you would think that the Discovery is really not a ship that when you think about it, like, I mean, maybe it was built in orbit, but like playing with train sets as a kid, there's a rule, right? And it's that you put the heaviest thing near the thing that you're gonna put the engine next to, right? And then everything else is gonna be lighter, So you'd want like a pyramid shaped thing with the base of the pyramid being where your engines are, as opposed to like this long chain that has a giant ball at the end of it. I mean, it would just be like pushing a rope, right? Like, I mean, it has all these modules that are yeah. So yeah, the ships.
Yeah, it'd be pushing a rope with a car on the end of it.
Yeah, right. Or it's like chaining a bunch of cars together and then like having one big car at the front of the chain, and then having a car at the end push all those cars. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense really. I don't think. You need like a space tug if you're going to do that.
Right. At least it was symmetrical, though.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so okay, yeah, no, that's a very good point. That's something that they clearly missed because yeah, that thing would have moved in a fucking circle for the end until the end of time if you had fired the engines like that.
Right.
Yeah, center of mass would be off. So, yep, all right, okay. So, strike one, strike two, whatever for 2010 for science. So yeah, so they're running away, and as they're running away, they notice that Jupiter's getting eaten.
Yes. By these insect monoliths? I don't even know what to call them. Like, I guess they were devouring. It's almost like the replicators. Like they were taking in everything in its path and making more of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they were replicating.
And then somehow, monolith metal boxes turns into a sun. I guess. Or maybe they all exploded together, or I don't know.
Yeah, so that right there is something that the layman is not very familiar with, I imagine, but if you were to ram about 6 or 7 Jupiter-sized planets together, you would get something that was called a brown dwarf, just kind of like the intermediate between a planet and a star is a brown dwarf. It's not quite enough mass to have fusion, but it gets really hot. And Jupiter's actually, in terms of radio waves, Jupiter is very hot and screaming out radio waves all the time.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that it's got so much mass, everything's beating against each other. It gets heated up. But if you had more and more and more, like the monoliths were adding, eventually you hit a point where the density becomes so great that you start to have fusion, and then boom, after that you've got a star. So
wait a minute, because the monoliths were like flying around, like on their own,
and
you're saying that their mass.
They're magically adding mass to Jupiter. That's what they're doing. So the monoliths are like
by expanding their own population, or
yeah, somehow. I mean, they don't really.
or are they condensing all the gas? They're adding mass, so that wouldn't matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could probably also increase the density of the gas too. That would that would cause it to fuse. Maybe just enough physical objects, just falling into the center of Jupiter. All these monoliths dying for the good of
the greater cause.
The sun, for their cause. Yeah.
So when Jupiter turned into a star, the size of Jupiter didn't really change, did it?
No.
So would we, if Jupiter were to become a star, would we see Jupiter from here?
Yeah, we would.
Or would it just look like any other star in the sky?
No,
it wouldn't be a second sun, I don't think.
No, it's not massive. No, because like the sun is like 1,000 or 800 Jupiter masses or something like that. And I mean, and all you need is like 8 to get a star, to get like the smallest star. So, yeah.
Well, like at the end, it was like life on Tatooine, where everybody had 2 suns, but
yeah.
I don't think you would see 2 suns. I think you'd see our sun and then just a random new star in the sky. Like a speck of light.
Oh, yeah. No. Don't get me wrong. It wouldn't be... Yeah, it would definitely be much, much, much weaker than the sun. But it would still light up the night sky. At least, a little bit.
It would?
Yeah. I mean, it's a star. It's closer
Would it be like the moon?
I think it would
like
be...
Like a full moon?
No, I think it'd be more than the moon, actually, if you think
really?
about it. Yeah, because so the sun. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I mean the sun is huge, but
right.
Jupiter. I mean, you could barely see Jupiter from Earth.
Right, but it would definitely be by far the biggest star, the brightest star in the sky, and probably the only star you could see at daytime. You could probably see it at daytime.
Maybe a little bitty speck of white or something.
Yeah, and then if it got night, then it would.
If it got night.
If it got night, right? Yeah. Well, that would be interesting because you would always you would have 2 sections of the year, right? Because you would have the section where you had kind of a normal night when you were facing both away from Jupiter and the sun. And you would have half a year of weird night where you had, Jupiter in the sky at night. So
yeah.
That
would be weird.
It would be weird. Probably throw off a lot of animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So after that, right? They escape. and then they're just
So
I think it's just a voiceover by Roy Schneider about having two sons on Earth and how that's great now, and then it ends, and then it
Yeah.
ends with the epilogue of Europa and the monolith arriving there.
Right,
Like,
and the all your base are belong to us message.
yes, all your fates are belong to us. Yes, except for Europa. Right.
So let's talk about these alien things because I didn't really get that. So whatever the heck is going on with Europa?
Hmm.
So are there two aliens at work here? There's like the aliens that started us, and then they're also now starting this new like Earth-like planet on Europa.
Yeah, so basically, like these monolith guys are they're like civilization accelerators, right? Like they're built, and this isn't some backstory or whatever that's in these books,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's really not. The thing is, it's like who built them isn't really explained, and honestly, isn't that important. All all that they do is they're like massive cosmic multi tools that
Mm-hmm.
can
So it's like
that
a Minecraft block.
yes that can do like a lot of stuff, um and they're basically kind of they're watchdogs, like, and they're there to perform certain tasks in
Mm-hmm.
some cases. Like uh, there was a monolith they found. What started all this was they found a monolith on the moon, apparently in 2001, and that was there to whenever humanity got to the moon and uncover this monolith, that was the monolith's job was to send out a signal saying, "Hey, these humans we've been watching, they've finally reached the moon. All right, they're
Interesting.
spacefaring now."
I don't really remember that, but that
Mhm.
I guess makes a lot of sense.
Right, but that I mean that you would have to infer, and knowing that these were
Yeah.
like kind of like cosmic gardening tools,
Yeah.
so they're basically there to create intelligent civilizations out of animals,
So did these monolith things kill off the dinosaurs?
maybe. Like maybe I don't know. I mean, there are 4 books in this series.
Oh, really? Is the next
And
one like 2032 or something like that?
no, it's 2063.
Ah,
And they go to Halley's Comet, and then
interesting.
there's 3001, which is they recover the body of the guy who's been floating, who was killed in 2001. They recover his body floating out in space and revive him 1,000 years later.
So it's like Futurama.
Futurama. Yes, it is. Dun 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 dun.
Nice.
The world of tomorrow. Yeah. So, yeah, I think 2010. I want to say, in summary, in terms of like a good movie experience, now that we're talking about it, I think the ending's a little weak, right? I think the beginning is certainly weak in 2010. But to somebody who's like interested in space and space stuff,
Mhm.
like I think that this is hands down one of the most. I mean, the Martian is, as far as I'm concerned, is the gold standard for sci-fi.
I have not seen that, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, no, that's the, again, gold standard for science fiction, The Martian. This, before I saw The Martian, this was my gold standard for science fiction, because it does have, it does have like more realism in it than, if you ignore like the fantastic parts about like monoliths and
Right.
Jupiter turning into suns. Like,
it's still
okay with-
believable though.
Right.
Like I think this is I agree. This is a pretty solid movie
Yeah.
for being a movie. And I mean, you got to take it into a context. It's a story, right?
Right.
But you compare this to like most of the things they're making today or recently, it's like this movie could never have been made today and be
No.
anywhere near as good as it is.
Never.
Because what would happen today? Oh, they'll heavily rely on,
CGI explosions.
CGI and all this fake stuff. And
Yes.
I mean, you talked about Interstellar earlier. Interstellar is like this movie if it were made today.
Yeah. No,
It's like,
I agree.
It's just a terrible concoction of modern movie making, ways.
And
Whereas, you go back to like early 90s, mid 80s, early 70s, like that to me is like the gold standard of movie making because everything was real and you didn't get into this weird CGI world where everything's so fake and uninteresting. Whereas this, they're at least trying to make it, interesting and real. And even though the props are models and all this, like it's still cool to see.
Right.
When you take it from a context of, this is just a story and we're just, this is the way we're telling it. Whereas today it'd all be CGI and it'd all be dumb.
Mm-hmm. I think that keeping a good good lines, good dialogue between characters, especially in science fiction is important because in science fiction you should be really discussing what are we going to do about this problem X, like that's what you could say about this movie. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about the discovery that's about to crash into Io? What are we going to do about this giant monolith that we have no idea that's sitting around here? What are we going to do about and then you sit down and then you talk out these and then as you talk out, character personality comes out, and you have insights into character and all that good stuff, while just sitting down in a conference room somewhere and talking about this stuff, like that scene where they send out the probe and it explores Europa. Like that scene would never. It's 5 minutes of like a camera moving across like some ice field, black and white, while Helen Mirren and Roy Schneider like look at a CCTV screen and talk about it. Okay, and that goes on for 5 minutes, and that would never, ever, ever happen in a million years in a movie today, because like
there's no action. It's just talk and
right.
And to really drag it out like that, I think that just builds suspense for what you're trying to show. And
yes,
I mean, you see a lot of that kind of style in older movies, but certainly not today because everybody's got to be action, 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 and there's no time for character development.
Right. And it's I mean
you look at Star Wars. I mean, it was all like action from the get go, and you're like, I don't even know who these people are.
Right. There's a pacing to this that's slower and more suspenseful. Ultimately, though, the main thing that I could see getting a lot of people nerves is these characters don't really grow at all, and like there's no real character development. I mean, it's a story. It's a self-contained story about something else than these characters, really.
Yes, yeah. Because everybody's trying to figure out what these monoliths are. Who cares? It doesn't really matter who's figuring them out.
Right.
It doesn't. That doesn't really matter because it doesn't add to the story of who's actually on this journey. I mean, they did a little bit in the beginning with the guy and his like family and his like pet dolphins and stuff like that.
Yeah, which was really weird to me, because I didn't. And apparently, so like he's gone for a long time, and they get a divorce, and that is
really
very and
I did not catch that.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's barely mentioned in the books, which is very strange. Like it literally goes like there's one chapter where he's writing a letter to her, and then there's one chapter where it's like, well, I'm not writing this to you, like with my dearest at the top of it. It's like, wait, what happened? Did you get a letter saying that she dumped you or something? Like, what's going on? Like, anyway, but so yeah, they the characters, they don't really there's no character.
They don't add to the story.
They don't, and I mean, you can make an argument that in science fiction, do they need to,
In this case, I don't think they did, because the whole point of all of this was let's discover what this monolith thing is all about.
Right. So, I don't think that that's as much as a bad thing. There's more to hold this movie up than the characters, which is good. Yeah. But it's sad that they got, which is now an all-star cast. I mean, Roy Schneider, pretty big deal, especially back in, the 80s and the 90s. John Lithgow didn't know him, alright, but Helen Mirren was already pretty famous. So, I mean, they got some pretty, heavy hitters for this movie. But, I don't know, man. You got any more thoughts on this?
It was good. I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride.
Mm-hmm.
A little weird here and there, but hey, it was the 80s. What can you expect?
A little weird here and there, but it was the 80s. What can you expect? Nice.
This has been a presentation of Honey Sound Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Bilko Media Network.